Supply chain control and risk management. Well, joining us today to speak about that, Karin Stevens, Executive Vice President, Chief Marketing and Product Officer at Overhaul. Karin, it's great to see you. Welcome.
Thank you, Russell.
Karin, let's talk about the impact to your risk profile if you are not collaborating with your external partners. So walk us through that. What's going on?
Yeah, so collaboration has really been a theme that I've heard through about a lot of conferences and discussions with customers over the course of the last, through COVID, frankly. And I believe that collaboration is really an essential part of your supply chain resiliency strategy, for one, but really thinking about how collaboration can support mitigating risk, and ideal specifically within the in-transit portion. So thinking about not just within your first suppliers, but all the way through your fourth suppliers, like how can we really kind of build out an effective strategy to mitigate your risk. So looking at it into a couple of different ways, visibility is always going to be at the core for most companies, or all companies, I should say, in terms of understanding kind of where their products are moving throughout the journey, and really looking at that as the kind of foundation. But moving in from visibility, and specifically I'm thinking about how real time do you need to understand kind of where your products are, and then moving into kind of what the risk management needs are for specific companies. So when I think about risk profile, I think about what is the risk tolerance of your product. From a logistics standpoint, obviously understanding risk is about on-time deliveries and really understanding kind of what those delays and disruptions are going to look like. And that goes back to why having collaboration within your resiliency strategy is so important, because you need to be able to anticipate disruptions and know what to do when those happen. But specifically with the risk management piece, I always look at that as you can kind of break it down. For real-time risk management specifically, I look at what the specific product is and understanding whether there's a tolerance to certain spoilage events, temperature deviations, and so forth. Is the product of a particular high value or interesting for the black market? So we look at that as a consideration as you're building out your risk profile and really thinking through kind of what that means in your tolerance. And then ultimately, what is your strategy for designing a solution for working and collaborating with partners to get the right visibility, build in a rules engine and SLAs that can support flagging for risky situations, and then ultimately mitigating them in a more preventative, proactive manner. And then lastly, then build into kind of compliance and thinking about what can we do as kind of leading indicators of risk, and how the data that you've gathered through collaboration with your partners can really support driving the right performance and behaviors. So this isn't about being punitive with the partner network. I think I've heard a lot, both at CSCMP conference as well as others, around working in collaboration with suppliers is so important, because then you can get the right data to really inform and make the right business decisions across the entire ecosystem. So for me, compliance is really thinking about driving carrier performance, but not only working with the carriers in collaboration with getting the right behaviors from their network, their drivers, as well as others, to ensure that the product is moved in a safe environment. So that's kind of the journey as you're thinking about maturing through from visibility, which is the foundation and the core, especially getting the right visibility and access to the product as it's moving through the journey, all the way through to what does compliance mean. And there's a play in for the insurance industry there in terms of the rising loss ratios that we're seeing, and really kind of thinking about how we can drive the right behaviors across the space to ensure that we can kind of bring those down over time.
So if I understand correctly, three major components that we're talking about there: visibility and all that's involved there, the risk profile, extraordinarily complex situation, because obviously different situations obtain depending upon the area that you are involved in.
Exactly.
And then compliance. Three major areas that we've just walked through. Is that right? Do I have that correct?
That's correct. And when you think about different parts of an organization, whether that be from the transportation and logistics team, a security department, or the quality group in certain organizations, all of that information kind of sits within one of those three pillars in reality, because we can drive into quality based on if it's a pharma company that's looking at managing kind of data around temperature compliance while in transit. The compliance piece is going to be so important to that, because they can't tolerate spoilage or any temperature deviations in that environment. So really thinking across not only external partners and how we can collaborate there, but also within internal departments and the value of the different the data that's coming through from a visibility perspective. But think about visibility as your inform, and then risk management as your correct, and in a lot of cases real-time correction, and then going through to their compliance piece is really about driving the right behaviors in the future through the historical information and data that we've developed over time.
You know, when you talk about internal operations, it reminds me that the last thing you want is some type of a siloed approach. You want all of the departments, all of the internal partners to be aware of what all of the other partners, all of the other departments in the enterprise are doing, what their concerns are, because their concerns are our concerns. Would that be fair to say?
That's absolutely correct. And really having access to the data is going to help with that, because you need data to be able to automate and improve the future, build in things like machine learning. But the data access, cleansing the data and ensuring that the integrity is withheld is so important to an organization, and frankly to their partners as well, because for the experience to be successful, we need that across the environment to have to be able to kind of mitigate risk over time.
Well, let's drill down into that, because clearly data, the quality of one's data and access to it is extraordinarily important. In fact, I would say perhaps it's an imperative.
Right.
So walk us through that. What are the considerations there?
So I've always thought about it as this: bad data in cannot help us improve where we're going. Certainly the data integrity is so imperial, but data in terms of data latency, so the frequency in which you're getting information through, we need to manage through that as a network, as a partnership. I think about how we can improve those and drive the right behaviors across carrier suppliers, LSPs, and so forth. But in order for the data quality to improve, it's working in collaboration with them to see where the gaps are. So we're going to have dark spots or gaps within the integrity of the data as you move through the chain of custody. That's just a reality. Being able to provide creative solutions around filling those gaps is really an area that has been a lot of focus for me personally, but also I think it's something that we hear a lot from the industry as well, is how do you solve for that? Because the latency piece is real. And sometimes you're needing to make real-time decisions with data that's 8 hours old. So really looking at ways that you can kind of elevate that. But it's kind of the rising tide lifts all boats. So we have to be able to work collaboratively with suppliers, as opposed to thinking about it in more of a punitive fashion of you must provide this, and there's a solution that in there. It is really providing that creativity and collaboration, as I said, is kind of the theme of the talk track here.
Great drill down into that really, really important area. Final question, Karin. There may be somebody out there viewing today's video not altogether familiar with Overhaul. So if you would take a moment, tell us a little something about the company, about the focus of the company, and more particularly, what is it that you are doing to enhance or to optimize the operations of the folks that you're working with? What do you say?
So Overhaul is a supply chain visibility and risk management solutions provider. We have software at our core. We have real-time transportation visibility at our core, so we can connect disparate sources of data throughout the supply chain. That may be telematics, ELD information, or other information from TMS and so forth. Bring that together to inform the customer first and foremost what's happening, and then as I mentioned in the risk management piece, really kind of then providing corrective actions to ensure that we can mitigate risk along the way. So we have a number of customers across a variety of different verticals. And the way I see it is we kind of slide up and down across their risk profile, thinking about and understanding the geographies that they operate within, the specific product, and that's where we can lean in and help configure the right program specifically for their needs. So a customer that has a pharmaceutical customer will have a much different tolerance to risky behaviors than perhaps a fast-moving consumer good that's moving different products or commodities. So we really look at that and tailor solutions around what their specific needs are. It's driven by data, and then we can plug the gaps with other sources where we see that there's missing information. So providing that creativity and really kind of collaborating, not just with a shipper, but the 3PL network as well as their suppliers to really provide a more cohesive solution for them.
Great drill down, I must say, into two very important areas, risk profile and data.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for finding the time to speak with us today. Great conversation. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Russell.
Karin Stevens, Overhaul, speaking with us today about supply chain control and risk management in your enterprise. Thanks for watching.